right, welcome back everybody to another edition of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com where I talk about those cheap books that you can still find typically in those dollar bins, those bargain bins, those cheap boxes, either at your LCS, flea markets, or wherever you do your cheap comic book shopping. Just stuff that you want to be aware of in case you hit those boxes and you don't know what to look for. This is just giving you ideas of things you should be aware of and keep an eye out for when you're digging in those boxes. So hopefully you like this series as well as all the other content that I'm putting out there on Rennavision. If you are, please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss any of the alerts from when new content is dropping basically every day. And we'll just keep telling your friends so we keep this thing growing. And if you want to see this week's Dollar Bin suggestions, hang on for a second after the intro. I'll be right back with this week's books. All right, so for Dollar Bin Digging this week, I was thinking about doing magazines, which I might do next week. Just some weird magazine ideas that you can go pick up out of some, cheap boxes and bins. Those weird boxes and like milk crates you can find underneath the tables at your LCS that might just have some treasures in there. I was going to do that this week, but then for one reason or another, I decided to pivot, and I pivoted to the idea of last issues again. I know it's a topic I've covered before, but it's just true. I mean, final issues of many series are generally lower printed, harder to find, and command a bit of a premium. So you should be aware of some of these last issues that you just might not know as you're flipping through the boxes that, this random issue of Daredevil, this was the last one? Because not everyone says it on the front. Like plenty of them say like finale or last issue, end of an era, or some weird, nonsense like that, just to kind of help sell that final issue. But other times you really wouldn't know. And as I brought up Daredevil, that's going to be the first one that I want to talk about, because Daredevil 380, this issue, boom. I mean, outside of that, you don't know this is the last issue of that run, but it is. So it's one that you should keep an eye out for. And I know I typically only throw out like 3 or 4 books. I'm going to throw out a couple extra this week because there isn't a lot to go into. There's not a lot of detail for me to provide on why you should get this book, like first appearances or really explaining the storylines. It's a very simple concept. It's the final issue. They're generally printed, less, and they're harder to find. And like I said, for people trying to complete their runs or searching for these, they will pay a little bit of a premium for these books. So they generally do better than other random issues, throughout the run. It's just not like a common. So it is an interesting footnote to be aware of, these last issues. So when you look at this Daredevil 380 and you want to see what this is actually sold for recently, I mean, it's like $15. So if you find this in a cheap box, a dollar box, and that's $15 plus $7 shipping. So somebody's paying over, $20 to pick up this last issue. And if you're shopping for one yourself, even what's out there right now on eBay, you're going to find yourself having to pay either $18 at best offer or up to $40 from the UK, which that's another $12 in shipping. So again, it's just these books command a premium because they're not as easy to find as other, fillers within the run. It's an important footnote, that final issue. So like I said, these numbers and these covers should be things you should imprint in your mind so you're aware of it as you're flipping through just random Marvel books, random series. So this way, when you see this big explosion, you go, why do I know this book? Oh, it's because it's the last issue of the run. For $1 or 50 cents or something like that, I should probably just grab this. Just saying. So moving on with that idea, as we cover some other series like that, you probably should pick up this entire run of Moon Knight, but this run of Moon Knight, issue 38, again, odd numbered issue. It's not like a milestone issue. Pretty solid cover, and there's no indication that this is the last issue of the run, but it is. So this Moon Knight 38 is one you want to keep an eye out for. It's granted, this run has a lot of great covers that a lot of people hunt, from like 25 to I think issue 30 with the werewolf stuff. But issue 38 is the last one of this run, and it, like as I said, gets a little bit of a premium for that. So you want to see what actually sells on this? $20. There was one at auction with one bid, $20 with $8 shipping. So somebody paid nearly $30 for this last issue of Moon Knight from this run. I forget which volume it is, because Moon Knight has been stopped and restarted so many times over the years, but keep an eye out for this one from the 80s. And like I said, it does all right. And if you're looking to buy one right now and you were going to go shopping for one, you're looking at $30 to $75 are the asking prices. Yes, just for this random issue of Moon Knight. So as I said, you're flipping through those cheap boxes, you see a 75-cent Moon Knight, and you go, oh, I don't know what issue. Issue 38 is the last one and is one to keep an eye out for because it could get you a few bucks if you were looking to do that, or it's just pay the dollar instead of paying these inflated prices if you're trying to complete that run. So if you're just hunting for yourself, try to get these last issues for cheap if you can, because otherwise you're going to find yourself paying the premium online to grab them. So keep that in mind as well. So our next book, another odd one, Thunderstrike. Now this one goes against what I've been saying, and this one tells you it's the end. Like, this is it. This is it for Thunderstrike. No more. So issue 24 is the last issue of Thunderstrike, and I mean, you're going to say, who cares? I know it's not the biggest in demand book. I know that Thunderstrike 1 with the holofoil cover got hot for a while because everybody saw those Chris Hemsworth pictures on set where he was wearing a vest, and everybody's like, "Ooh, Thunderstrike." But I don't think that really matters much. It's okay, so he's wearing a vest like Thunderstrike. I don't think there's really any connection outside of that, but still, Thunderstrike is still an interesting kind of character, and I'm sure by the time it ran out, there are not that many copies. I don't remember seeing this cover all that often. Otherwise, I probably would grab it. Even just not knowing prices or anything like that, just looking at this is something that would catch my eye and go, huh, the end. I should probably scoop this up to see what this is. But if you want to see what this actually sold for, well, it's not a ton either. It's $20 for a lot. And there's like 6 issues in there, including issue 1 and the last issue, and then just a few in between. So it's $20, and you got the whole lot. And that was it. That's the only sale. But what was more interesting to me was that when I looked to see what was available, if I wanted to just buy this last issue, couldn't find any. There's none available for sale, like online. So this is one of those things where I think if somebody comes to market and they're the only game in town, that's when people start getting the premium. And all of a sudden we have a new high water mark, and now everybody's paying a bunch for Thunderstrike 24 because, well, one sold for a lot. And the reason why one sold for a lot is because that was the only option. That was the only game in town, and somebody decided that they really needed that issue for one reason or another. Just saying, sometimes things work out like that. Not saying that it should, not advocating anybody go and do that. I'm just saying there's no copies out there right now. So if anybody was looking, you're not finding one of these. So you got to go dig in those cheap boxes to find one, most likely. Now, moving on to our next one. Everybody loves Deadpool, so why not the last issue of Deadpool? At least this run of Deadpool, who, again, has also had a lot of stops and restarts, just so they can refresh and rehash and sell new number ones. But issue 69 of this run of Deadpool was the final issue of the run, and, yeah, as you might have guessed, it does all right. I think this came in after that like Funeral for a Freak run. That was like in the 60s, in the late 50s, issue 60, somewhere in there. So not too long before this. And if you want to see what this sells for, one did sell for only $7.16 at auction. It was like 5 bids. And if you wanted to buy one, you're not going to find it as cheap, though. You're going to have to pay a few bucks more. You want to buy it now, but it's 12 to $30. For this thing. This is this last issue. So you can get it for a decent amount, but it could get expensive. So you just got to mind what you're doing if you're out there shopping. But like I said, just keep an eye on those cheap boxes, because you never know. You can come across random issues of Deadpool, because it's not like every issue of Deadpool is worth a ton of money. I mean, that's not the case with most series. So that's why knowing these odd numbered issues that aren't keys for any other reason, like there's no death first appearances or things like that are really drawing the eyes, it's really just because it's the last issue, the final issue of the run, and that gives this a little bit of of interest. So moving on from that, we are now going to roll into Ghost Rider. I sometimes see banged up copies or mid-grade Ghost Riders like late in the run from the Johnny Blaze days, but issue 81 is the end of Ghost Rider, and they tell you on this one. Pretty cool cover too, with the skull and Ghost Rider. The saga concludes. This is it for Johnny Blaze, at least at this time, and we will know we're going to get it restarted again eventually. But issue 81 is it's a solid issue. Black cover. It's gonna be tough to find in high grade too, but when we're digging in dollar bins, we're not always talking high grade. You just get what you can get. So as long as it's not falling apart, it's not flaking away in your hands, and it's not completely covered attached and just crumbling away, I would still grab it, even if it's dinged up a little bit. Because if you look at this book, this Ghost Rider 81, the last one sold for about, what was it, $20. Buy it now. So final issue, not too bad for just a random late run issue. Because like I said, this issue 81, that's just 80 issues of this book, where most of them don't gather a lot of interest. Like there's not a lot of outside of like the early issues and maybe a couple of appearances along the way. There isn't a lot to go hunting in that original Ghost Rider run on its own. There's just a lot of filler. So knowing the last issue helps, because this one can get you a couple of bucks more than the rest of the filler. And you want to go shopping and looking for one, there's one for 10 bucks out there, and you can find another one like 33 bucks. So like 10 to 30 bucks, just like that Deadpool. Not a bad return if you can go find this in a cheap box somewhere. Just saying. And sticking with Ghost Rider, I know he got restarted again with the Danny Ketch in the 90s, and there was that weird delay where the final issue was like almost 10 years later. So this issue 94 of Ghost Rider finale, and I believe I've talked about this one before, which is why I don't feel too bad bringing it up again, because it's been months, if not years, since I've talked about it before, and this is like issue, the 5th or 6th book. So I'll give you plenty of other options before we got to this point. But this Ghost Rider 94 is not an easy one to track down, because it just came through just to wrap up the storyline from, again, years before. But they still didn't make a whole heck of a lot of them. So when you look at what this thing sells for, this issue 94, you can see it doesn't do too bad. I mean, 15 bucks is actually down from what it used to be. This used to be a solid like $25, $30 book most days, but $15, one just sold for, it's like 2 weeks ago. So that's not too bad. And if you were shopping for one of these issue 94s right now, you can expect to pay what I was saying, like $25, well, up to 45 are the asks of what's out there right now. So just something to keep in mind. But one other little tidbit to keep in mind, and it was also kind of surprising, because I remember this issue being like a big deal because, again, it just came out of nowhere and it was not heavily printed. So a lot of people were looking for it. But while it's not really the final issue anymore, the issue that preceded this, issue 93, which was in actuality the last issue of Ghost Rider forever, well, maybe not forever, almost a decade before they came back through with this finale, that issue 93 was the last issue, and that one just died on the vine due to just the publishers going, all right, that's it, we're cutting it. Print runs so low that we're just going to stop doing this. And I think that's a reason why this one actually is doing better than 94. So this issue 93, which gives no indication that the series is ending, and again, they had to end the series, wrap it up, because they weren't planning on ending it at 93. So they had to come back again years later to wrap up the stories that they were telling. But issue 93 does pretty well for itself, and 50 bucks was the last sale on September 16th for this book. So if you can sneak one of these, find one of these in a cheap box, definitely grab it, because it's not an easy book to find, and it's definitely not a cheap book to find. So I know a lot of people are already aware of that. This isn't news to everybody, but for those who are not aware, I'm just trying to share that information with you guys. So when you're digging in the boxes, you can find some stuff like this too. So if you want to look at what's available for sale right now, you can see 40 to 60 bucks is what the asking prices is on this issue 93. So again, not a cheap book, and one, if you can find it, you've done all right if you find it for cheap. So keep an eye out for it. And I think that's enough. I think that's enough for this week. Was there like 6 or 7 books? That's plenty of them. But again, just the idea, there's plenty of series that end, and those last issues in a lot of cases are worth a few bucks more than the rest. So it's just good things to know. Like the end of G.I. Joe, the end of Transformers, end of Silver Surfer, tons and tons of series where those last couple of issues get a little bit of a premium because of that dwindling readership and winding things down to an end. But thanks for everybody stopping by to check this out. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully I gave you some information that you find useful and helps you when you're out there digging in those boxes, because that's all I'm looking to do is kind of share some information, give you guys some knowledge, so when you're digging in those boxes, you know more books that you can scoop up and pull out, for your own collection or to sell, whatever you want to do. I mean, it's up to you. You collect your way and just enjoy it. It's a fun hobby. Let's just keep having fun. So if you like this, please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we keep growing the channel, and I will see you guys soon.